Welcome to this episode of Money Matters TV. My name is Kelly Stewart of The Positive Business, and I am happy to be joined today by Ken Jordan of Round Point Mortgage. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Kelly. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much, and looking forward to talking with you. I think this is our first time talking together on the show.
It sure is, and I think it's going to be a blast.
I think it's going to be awesome. So thank you very much for joining us. And
you bet.
So let's see. Mortgages. What could we talk about there? It's not like there isn't any news, but we're in such a highly competitive environment now with the housing market, especially. Mm-hmm. And we're just, seeing the prices on homes go up. So let's just jump right into this.
Sure.
How does having like the right lender or the lender that you choose, does that impact an offer that somebody might be making when houses are literally selling sometimes before they even get the sign out or it goes online?
Well, the competitive nature of the market right now is something that cannot be understated. I did have a client yesterday who essentially lost out on a bid, and there were 18 other bids above the asking price. So it wasn't just 18 other bids. There were actually 18 other bids that were above the asking price. So the competitive nature is critical. And I think that there's two things to consider when you are trying to decide which lender to go with and how it's going to impact your transaction and your ability to get the offer accepted. And one of those is creatively approaching the financing, meaning, there are a lot of lenders out there that they're kind of cookie cutter and they don't really look at how they're going to be able to make a transaction work. What if the appraisal comes in low? Do you have a contingency plan there with the type of financing that you're using? Right. Are there other ways you can utilize tools like lender paid mortgage insurance, which is a terrific tool when it comes to potentially dealing with lower appraisals because you're already going above asking price. But the most critical part of choosing the right lender is in a market where a listing agent is sitting there with 18 different offers and they have two that are comparable, a lot of times the listing agent is going to feel more comfortable with a lender that's local, someone they know, someone that has a reputation in that marketplace. Right. And it's not to say that the other lender would do a bad job, but when it's like that old saying, when you're applying for a job and you have your resume, the HR manager is just picking reason. If so many resumes are just picking a reason to not use that resume. Well, it's the same thing. If it comes down to it, all else is equal, they may lean towards a lender that has the reputation in the marketplace. So, definitely work with your buyer agent and see who they recommend when it comes to getting a mortgage.
That's a great point, right? Because it is coming down. I mean, I've seen real estate in all points, the peaks and the valleys, and this one is very familiar to me from probably about 20 years ago when, again, back then the online promotion of homes was not really widespread yet, but literally places were selling before the sign went out. And so to think, I mean, that was just the quick sale. This is the quick, getting offers very quickly, but the multiple offers above asking price. I don't even think we were there when I'm thinking about this time period. So it really is very different than I think what we've been used to.
It is. And I think another aspect of the current environment is the amount of time you have to put an offer in for whatever reason has really been condensed. And listing agents are putting houses on the market, accepting offers until a certain time. So you also want to work with a lender that can help you, get your pre-approval letter together, get your numbers in line, whether it be on a Saturday or Sunday or even off hours, because you may need to act quick and you want someone that's going to kind of act quick with you.
Absolutely. So in the market, are there trends? Are down payments changing because the prices are going up? Are people still putting that conventional 20% down? Are they putting more down? Are there changes that you see there?
What I am seeing is, again, when we talk about down payment, the reason that's important is because the difference between what you're borrowing and the sale price, or, is if it's 5% and the appraisal comes in low, then you have to lower the loan amount, right? Or if it's FHA and it's 3.5% and the appraisal comes in low, you have to lower the loan amount and increase your down payment in order to make the transaction work. the programs are all still there.
Right. Okay.
But we're seeing that
Mhm.
some mortgage products are having a harder time getting approved for VA
Sure.
and FHA simply because of the lack of flexibility when it comes to the equity piece in a low appraisal
Mhm.
situation. And we are seeing that as a trend. So people
Hmm.
are moving more towards conventional just because it's more suitable for the seller.
Understood. Understood. Well, will you stay on the trend train with me for a second? I'll ask another
Sure.
question. Floating rates, locking in rates, are there benefits or advantages to doing one or the other?
So floating or locking is an age-old question. We try and take the best information that we have, whether it be the short-term trends, which is literally the last few hours, or the long-term trends, last couple of weeks or months. It's difficult to predict. It's like buying a stock. But what we're seeing right now is a relatively stable interest rate environment versus what we saw last year during the pandemic, which was very volatile.
Hmm.
There's certainly some market indicators that would suggest inflationary pressures are going to drive up interest rates in the long run. But typically in the next 45 days, which is the lock or float question,
Sure.
no one's
Absolutely.
locking a loan on a house they don't own or don't have a contract on. Usually you can get a pretty good idea by taking a look at what the bond market's doing to say, okay, maybe we should wait a day or two to lock. But most people, they are locking within a week or so of their contract date.
Okay, perfect. That's great news. So in all of this dynamic
Mhm.
change that we're seeing, I love what you just said there, trends from the last few hours, right? So things are constantly moving and shaking, especially in this market. What's working in this market? What are some like real highlights and might help take some of the stress out of this if some of our viewers are thinking about buying a home?
Well, I will tell you that considering the amount of properties that are selling for higher than the asking price, we're running into a surprisingly low number of appraisal issues. They're out there for sure,
Okay.
but I'm actually surprised at the appraisals. Because there is so much activity. There's
Hmm.
a lot of data for the appraisers to draw from, which is helping to support the values of some of these houses that are selling for higher than asking price, and that's a good thing.
Wonderful.
Overall, rates being where they are is a phenomenal thing for this market.
Right.
Granted, if the house goes up $20,000 for between asking and sold price, and the rates relatively stable, that can really continue to spur on the activity, because if rates do jump,
Hmm.
they go to
Hmm.
4.5%,
Right.
then the affordability index is really going to be impacted. And all of a sudden, the number of people that can afford to go $20,000 above asking price, that number is going to drop. And I think that
Okay.
that's ultimately what may happen in order to bring the market into more of a balanced place.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you very much for all of that, Ken. And I hope you brought
Sure.
your crystal ball with you, because we have a question today that's come
Okay.
in from Sam Toms of Philadelphia. And he wants to know, how do you see the credit market developing over the next 6 months?
So, with regard to the credit market and how banks and lenders are looking at borrowers overall, are they getting stricter? Are they loosening up guidelines? If we look at the last 12 months, obviously we came through this pandemic, and it did not, I mean, it had an impact on the mortgage industry. There were laws that were put in place that
Mhm.
impacted how people were able to or willing to pay their mortgage back. And all of those decisions impacted the industry. And you did see a tightening of credit guidelines throughout the course of the pandemic, where lenders were really focusing on quality loans. Self-employed borrowers struggled. Borrowers who were looking to take cash out of their property struggled. People who were purchasing investment properties struggled. We are starting to see that loosen up now, which is great.
Great, great. Mhm.
But I don't see us going back to the loose guidelines of 2008 by any means.
Right.
But I do see that there is still a focus on quality, and we still want to, as an industry, we still want to make sure that we're writing approvable loans that are going to get paid back. But we are starting to see some of that other stuff that was restricted. We're starting to see that open up, and I think we'll continue to see that over the next 6 months to a year.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, Sam, for your question. If you have a question for Money Matters TV, here's how you can send it in.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Well, now we are very happy to welcome to the show Howard Lubert of the Keiretsu Forum. And Howard, welcome to Money Matters TV today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We love to have you. In fact, I know a little bit about Keiretsu, and I would love to learn more about you. And I was hoping we could start the show by just, if you would, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I grew up in a very small rural town in northwestern New Jersey and went to college in Bethlehem at Moravian. I then did graduate school at what was then Glassboro State College, now Rowan University, and then a year of postgrad at the University of Pennsylvania, and with a focus, I thought, of working in the higher ed administration business within academia. That didn't work out, and I ended up joining IBM, where I spent 5 years before going out on my own because of the invention of the Apple II computer, which somehow I just knew was going to change the world. I don't know to this day exactly what it was, but I realized that was going to happen. And so I've been in technology and now finance as a result of that for a long time.
That's amazing. And it almost sounds like there's about 3 or 4 more stories in there that we could do the whole show with. So thank you for sharing that. I love that. I'm also born and raised in New Jersey. Just want to share.
Howard, I have a quick question for you. First of all, it's great to meet you, and we're happy to have you. You started Keiretsu in Philadelphia, I guess about 10 years ago, you were saying. Now, what prompted you to bring the firm to the East Coast rather than joining an angel group that's already here?
Well, interestingly enough, I looked at the most active angel groups here in the Delaware Valley at the time, and clearly 10 years ago, the number one angel group was Robin Hood Ventures, and they remain today as one of the most active forces here in the Mid-Atlantic and Delaware Valley. But I was at an investor conference in San Diego and happened to overhear a conversation about Keiretsu. That night in my hotel room, I looked them up online and I was very intrigued. So I followed up while I was there with the people that I'd met, and then subsequently had a conversation with Randy Williams, the founder. I flew out and met with Randy and spent the day with him and recognized that there was a rigor to the Keiretsu Forum process that did not exist in any group I'd ever met or talked to here on the East Coast. And having come from the venture capital background with Safeguard and the other work that I've done in private equity, it did remind me in many ways that it was a venture-focused approach to angel investing, which is what made it so different. And that's why I made the decision to bring it to first Philadelphia and now the Mid-Atlantic region.
It's amazing. I love what resonated with you about that. And I'm wondering, 10 years, okay, so how many companies then, ventures, do you think that you've looked at, even beyond that in your entire angel investing career? And who have you invested in?
Well, the numbers at Keiretsu are pretty impressive. We receive between 350 and 400 unsolicited applications every year.
Wow.
We screen those down to about the top 120 companies over a 12-month period that we invite to come in and screen with us. And from each of those 10 or so companies that come in every month, we invite a maximum of 4 or 5 to present to our members. So not even accounting for the other companies that are presenting and are successful in the other Keiretsu regions, we're looking at about 44 companies to 50 companies a year that get very serious looks at us for possible investment. So over the 10 years, we have probably funded over 300 companies and seriously looked at 500 from the thousands that we started with.
That's amazing. Do any of them stand out for you? Whether maybe the product or service was novel or just something else that maybe just resonated with you?
Well, if you're thinking that you're an active investor, you can't help but think from the movie Wall Street, greed is good. So the thing I would mention is that very early in the starting of Keiretsu, we were very lucky to have Bernie Rudnick, a renowned investor in the Mid-Atlantic region, who joined us and brought us an investment opportunity in a company called Immunomic Therapeutics. And a group of us put about $3.2 million in that company. And 3.5 years later, a Japanese pharma company wrote a check for $300 million for the exclusive rights to just one series of products that might have come out of Immunomic ITI.
Wow.
The board a week later voted to distribute $100 million of that dollars, and we received 14.4 on our 3.2. So a very unusual but very profitable opportunity.
Right. No, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Amazing.
So let's talk about trends. What trends do you see going forward in the angel investing space?
Well, probably the most significant trend now is a greater awareness for not quote unquote old boy network investment opportunities. Keiretsu here in the Mid-Atlantic has always been very heavily involved in the life sciences silo, although we invest in others. We have led the Keiretsu world in pharma and medical devices and other related life sciences products. And we're always on the look for opportunities to invest in companies that are women-led or other diversities, and constantly looking to make better investments whenever we can. That's awesome. Business.
Really awesome. So kind of piggybacking onto that, the trend idea, we're in the post-pandemic world yet now, sort of, I think. And so how might that whole ecosystem look different in terms of angel investing, or maybe even in terms of the companies that you're seeing than it did in 2018 or 2019?
Well, interestingly enough, early on in the opening of our Philadelphia chapter in the Mid-Atlantic region, we were offering a Zoom meeting to our members who could, for whatever reason, not attend their local meeting that month. So we've actually been doing Zoom meetings for 8.5 years. When the pandemic hit last March, and we all had to go to that, it was just a matter of upgrading our subscription with Zoom to start offering, fully remote meetings. I think what the future is that the new normal is going to include hybrid meetings where those who want to come in will, those who won't will stay on Zoom. In talking to our sponsors in our 5 cities here, it looks like the model initially this fall will be that anyone who is fully vaccinated will be welcomed into the meetings live, and anyone who isn't will stay home and join by Zoom.
Awesome.
So Howard, I have a question about, how you look at a particular opportunity. What factors weigh most when you're deciding who or what business you would like to invest in? What are the most important factors?
Well, I've been doing private equity investing for 35 years, starting back in my Safeguard Scientific days. I think you could boil it down to 4 key items in order of preference: people, plan, technology, and marketplace. So first and foremost, you've probably heard people in the private equity space say, we invest in jockeys, not horses. It's all about the CEO and the management team first and foremost. Then it's about what's the secret sauce, the plan, and what it is and what they're going to do to make it a successful business. followed by that technology that's unique or game-changing. And then last but not least, there obviously has to be a substantial marketplace to be successful.
So let's talk about those people for a minute there. And you mentioned this a little bit ago also, but what challenges do you think that women entrepreneurs face when they're looking to raise funds, raise capital for their ventures that might explain the lower number of deals that happen with women-led companies?
Well, there is absolutely no question that all of us are working hard to get more equality in the private equity investing space.
Right.
It has and is typically looked at as an old boys network, as I mentioned earlier.
Sure.
I will tell you that at Keiretsu, I am 99% sure that we are color and sex blind. And I personally would tell you that I believe that female CEOs make better business leaders than men. They're much more meticulous, they're much more focused, and frankly, they tend to offer a better return on investment.
Right. Okay. That's good to hear, and I hope we have lots of women entrepreneurs watching.
Absolutely.
I'd love to talk.
So if someone was interested in learning more about angel investing, what would you advise them to do? Where would you start?
Well, I mean, you can go online and Google angel investing. I think I would start with the Angel Capital Association website. And there's a button there that says Find an Angel, and you can look and see all of the different angel groups by geography. In the Atlantic region, for example, there's a great list. So whatever city you're in, there's likely to be an angel group that you might want to hook up with. After the Angel Capital Expo, after the Angel Network, you can then look at and talk to and go to a number of websites and determine the different kinds of organizations that exist. The vast majority of angel groups that exist in the United States are very early seed stage investors. They're looking to invest in startup companies where they're taking much greater risk than we do at Keiretsu, for example, but they're also investing much less money. So a company that might be raising as little as 25 or 50,000 or a few $100,000 to get started and to get to what we would refer to as proof of concept, there's hundreds and hundreds of those. There's dozens of angel groups like Keiretsu that come in after those early seed stage investments and make the much larger investments into the companies so that they can transition from R&D to sales and marketing, or in the life sciences space, can get the funding they need to do clinical studies for the FDA to get products or drugs approved. We have 3 deals open right now where we're investing a total of $15 million in single deals and single rounds, which was unheard of in angel groups just a few years ago. But with the breadth of Keiretsu North America and the 20 additional international chapters, as well as the ability to syndicate to any group that's interested in the deal, the opportunity for angels to raise tens of millions of dollars in deals now exists.
It's amazing. Very transformative then, as so many things are changing literally right before our eyes in how things will get funded. What do you think that might mean for the future then? Do you see this? I'll ask you if you've brought your crystal ball also. Do you see this as something that will stay that way with more opportunities for angel investment than there ever has been? And what impact might that make on entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think it's a transition that has taken place as a result of the dot-bomb bubble that burst in 2000. When many of the venture capital funds that were investing in early stage companies retreated because of the significant losses that took place, trillions of dollars of lost investments in that bubble. And Keiretsu, amongst others, but Keiretsu was one of the organizations that has always been focused on those larger rounds at later stages. And there are more angel groups and there are some VC groups now cautiously coming back into the earlier investment stage, so that there is a way for those companies that were able to get through their friends and family round and their seed stages
Mm-hmm.
to then get the kind of money they need to get fully commercialized and hopefully get to a liquidity event that makes a lot of money for all of us.
Right. I love that.
So I have a question about does Keiretsu bring any expertise, or do you position yourself as a company that kind of brings expertise along with the cash investment, where that the company or the person that you've invested in can kind of look to you for some stuff that they don't know, or is it strictly just here's the cash, we've looked at everything you've told us and we're comfortable investing, or is there kind of a partnership there?
That's a fantastic question. And Keiretsu, frankly, is famous for two things. Number one, we are the largest and most active angel group in North America and the world. But secondly, we're famous for the due diligence work we do on the deals before we invest. And that due diligence work requires an extensive amount of expertise. And we are privileged that we have so many members that we are able to execute due diligence similar to venture capital firms before making any investments. And I tell people that we're womb to tomb investors. So from the time we get an application from a company, we are hands-on partners with our portfolio companies, helping them to succeed. And we bring the expertise that the companies need to get there so that we can all bask in the liquidity event at the end of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm. Do you see, are there certain types of things that, generally speaking, they need more help with than others? Like, what can you help them the most with, I guess, is another way for me to ask that.
Well, it depends on where the investment, where the opportunity originated. If we're working with faculty members at a university that has invented something that could potentially be fantastic, they can't spell private equity. They don't understand how to deal together. So we surround them with all of the resources that they need people-wise to be successful in turning it into a business.
Okay.
If it's a serial entrepreneur, we will provide board members and oversight and the other pieces of the puzzle and kind of just sit back and let them make it all happen. But obviously, with a fiduciary responsibility to the investors so that we all come out alive.
Right, makes a lot of sense. All right, in our little half second that's left, is there another Apple II on the horizon? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think I just kind of did. Well,
is there another Apple II? The technology world is just doing such amazing things. If you think back 3 years ago, no one could spell IoT, Internet of Things.
Right.
And now there are estimates that are saying that there will be 20 billion devices connected by the end of next year.
Amazing.
And I can remember when people were telling us that the internet was not capable of supporting the traffic it would support, and it was going to implode on itself. And of course, not only has that never happened, it has also just continued to get more robust. So can I tell you what the crystal ball has in it tomorrow? No, but I can tell you that, for example, we're invested in 10 life sciences companies working on cures for cancer and Alzheimer's and other things.
Amazing.
And awesome. Maybe not one of them will be successful, but one of them somewhere will.
That is absolutely fabulous. Howard, thank you so much for being our guest today. Ken, I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you also, and I'm very excited to let everybody know that our next guest will be Eric Corkhill, CEO of NeuroAlert. Thank everybody for joining us, and remember to expect great things from everything you do. Thank you.